So I remember after UConn beat BC last season, it was kind of sweet revenge for you, right? Because you had talked about the fact that they were interested and then they weren't interested. Can you walk me through what the recruiting process was for you and how you ended up here at UConn?
Yeah, the recruiting process was something like I didn't really like, I would say, just because I felt like I was good enough to go to a lot of places and there wasn't a lot of places interested. But like I was mostly like talking to FCS schools, and then the only FBS schools I was really talking to was in the Northeast between UConn, BC, Syracuse, and like Rutgers. But none of them ended up offering me except for UConn. And BC was like my favorite. That's where I really wanted to go when I was younger. But they never offered me. They just ended up stopped talking to me, and so I decided to come to UConn, and it was a good choice.
When you think about growing up playing this game, at that time you had told me UConn was in its heyday, and we know it as its main heyday. What was missing when you first got here to where we are now, where we're thinking about what the future could look like?
Yeah, I think it just didn't have that same culture the way it had back then, because I remember like when they would have big teams at the Rent, like it'd be sold out, and it would be such a big deal. There'd be tailgates all over the Rent, and it just wasn't the same, I guess, when I got here. So we have to kind of build that culture back up, and obviously you see something that's what we're trying to do right now with Coach Moore and the Huskies now.
Are there any like high school regional rivalries that come up sometimes, since there are a few of you here that are from Connecticut that play here?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, especially the guys, I'm from Fairfield County, so I played a lot of guys in the FCX, so guys like Cam Edwards and those type of guys I played in high school. And there's sometimes guys that come up to me, especially like the freshmen, like, yeah, I was a freshman when you were a senior and you were playing against our high school, so it's just really cool and interesting to see. I love that we keep recruiting Connecticut guys.
Why is it so important to you that UConn is not just relevant again, but that there are more local kids that are choosing to stay here for football?
I think just because there's a lot of talent in this state. Obviously it's not as dense as a state like Florida or something, but the high-end talent from Connecticut is really good and can compete at any level. I think it's just good for the state to have those guys stay here and play for their state team, because you see other states, like the big guys, they want to stay in their state and play for their state team, like Georgia, Florida, those type of teams. So that's kind of what we got to build here, where we can keep our best talent in state and help us win.
How close do you think UConn is to getting there, to a point where a kid that's in Connecticut wouldn't dream of going anywhere else?
I think we're closer than people think. I think after this year it's going to be a lot more evident. I think we're shooting for a really big year, and obviously our standard's very high this year. And I think after this year we can really show kids like that might have opportunities to go somewhere else, that UConn might be a place for them to stay.
For people who have heard about what you did last year and who are now starting to walk into what you are trying to do as a program, what's something that you tell them if they're experiencing all this for the first time?
I would just say, like, don't be surprised. I mean, a lot of people, when they hear UConn, they hear basketball, and that's all they think about: women's basketball, men's basketball, national championships. Obviously they won the national championship last year. But don't be surprised with our football, and I think Coach Moore has done a great job here, and I think it's going to be really exciting for people to come in and see what we're doing here.